There we go. There we go, guys. Hello. Hello. It's Sunday. This means another episode of A Drink with Brink, where I talk with other indie creators about their lives and their campaigns and the books, because I'm kind of done with corporate comics. So indie comics is where the fun is, where the talent is, guys. So yeah. Whew. Busy weekend. I've been setting up a Kickstarter campaign, guys, because as some of you know, American Bliss on Indiegogo only lasted 30 days because we were shadow banned for reasons I don't know. They never told me, and I was like, okay, I'm going to end it here after 30 days. And this means that some of you missed out. And so I built a campaign for Kickstarter, and today I send it to Kickstarter for verification or approval. Yeah, approval. Yeah. So if it gets approved, then I hope it will launch next week, because I want to get this live. I want to get this started, guys. So yeah. Whew. And I'm still shipping out books from Perfect 10. So yeah. So people are still getting that, guys. It's a lot of work. I'm doing this on my own, but I'll get there. I'll get there, guys. Don't worry. You will all get your books. So yeah. And I saw Shadowhawk Talks here. Hey, welcome, sir. Shadowhawk Talks. He was first. So yeah. And then we have the Jolly Green. Jolly Green, hail to you. I hope you're having a great Sunday. Tony Horton. Hello, Tony Horton. How are you, sir? All the way from America. Hojo. Hey, Hojo. Hojo, I'm terribly sorry, sir. I'm sorry. We might do an extra stream this week. I will make it up to you. I promise, man. Welcome, man. Mike. Hey, Mike. How are you doing, Mike? Fan of GDN. What's GDN? Genuine. Woo! I know that one. Dark Side Comics. I know that one also. Ticker. Oh yeah, Ticker. Right. Yes, that's right. Mr. O'Hara. Yes, Mr. O'Hara is the guest for today. Oh, hey, more excuse to look at American Bliss is good enough. Excuse. Yes, sir. Yes. Mike, your shipment will also follow as soon as I receive the special commission that you wanted. I don't have it yet. It's on its way to me. Okay. Okay, guys. Okay. I think I'm caught up. The guest for today, guys, is a gentleman who has a Kickstarter campaign. It looks very, very interesting. It looks intriguing, and I would like to introduce you to this wonderful person, so wonderful creator. I don't know him. He's new to the show. So yeah, let's just bring him on. Welcome to the show, Mr. Chris O'Hara.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for having me.
Welcome, man. Welcome, Chris.
Yeah, good to be here.
Yeah. How are you doing this weekend?
Good. Like you, very busy.
Yes.
Running a Kickstarter campaign and everything. It's a lot goes into it. So busy.
Busy. Yeah, man. It's a lot of work. So, oh, okay. Before we start with the questions, the first question I always ask my guest is, "What are you drinking?"
Dr. Pepper.
Dr. Pepper. Okay, that's the first time ever someone had a.
I don't drink alcohol or anything. I'm very vanilla. I drink water and then the occasional Dr. Pepper. That's basically it. But I was like, all right, I need to make sure I have something in a nice glass with some ice and some,
Sure.
you know.
And of course, we have this time difference. So the problem is with my show, I have this drink theme, but most of my guests are from America, and it's like afternoon, so it's not really drinking time,
Yeah. Well, it depends on who you are, but for me, no.
No. All right, man. Okay. Oh, Amanda, welcome.
She gets it.
Amanda. And she says Dr. Pepper is a good choice. Yes. Yes. All right. Okay. Chris, is this your first comic book? Did you make comic books before this comic book? What's your profession?
So this is my first comic book, my first venture into comic book creation. And before this, I was always really into writing. So like I'm the writer on this comic book. I'm the creator, but I work with an artist, obviously. But I've always been interested in writing. Back when I was in high school, English was my favorite class, and I would just write short stories and poems and anything creative I could write, and I would just give them to the teacher and ask her for critiques. Not even classroom requests, not like part of the curriculum either. Just I would write my book reports that were requested, and then I would do my own writing nonstop. Right. So it's always been something I've enjoyed.
So you're just a natural writer. So you think of stories, you want to put them down.
Yeah, there's actually the interesting about that is I have something called aphantasia. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
I think I do, but you need to clarify.
A lot of people have heard of it recently because it's become more like known. But aphantasia is where I don't have any visual. I don't see anything in my head. Like I don't see images. Right. It's just black. So for people like that have aphantasia, I read all these articles on it apparently, and it made a lot more sense now. But apparently, people with aphantasia tend to think with words. So like if you think of an apple, you would see an apple in your head. Like you could close your eyes and see an apple. For me, I see the descriptions of an apple. I see round, red, fruit. And that's how I think about things. So I just thought that was normal. Apparently it's far from normal, but it makes sense why I've always been interested in writing. That's just how I think.
Right. So how did you figure out that was not how the average person sees the world or thinks?
I figured it out 2 years ago. So I'm 33. I figured it out when I was 31. So for 30 years, I thought it was just normal stuff. And then I read an article that said aphantasia, signs of aphantasia or something like that. And I was like, I remember watching that Disney movie a long time ago, Fantasia. I was like, is that what we're talking about with Mickey Mouse? And so I was curious and I looked into it and I was like, oh, this describes me to a T. Interesting. Right. Like finally I have something. It's weird.
Okay, but it's not something that you find challenging or difficult to deal with. It's just you're just
there. You have a lot of issues with memory, unfortunately.
Okay.
Oddly enough, memory is difficult, and memorizing things, even words, can be difficult because a lot of times people will picture where they memorized it. I can't do that. There's little things. It's little quirks that I thought were just everyone struggled with, but Nothing I haven't been able to overcome.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. But does this help you with your writing? Is
Yeah,
uh,
everything I do is think in words. So like
mhm.
I have notepads all over. I have on my phone I have a Google Doc that's like always one tab away that I could just go to and write down any thoughts I'm having, because 9 times out of 10 they're in like descriptions and plot analysis and like titles, and that's just how I think. So yeah,
Okay.
I would say it definitely helps with writing. At least we'll see. This is my first this is my first comic book. Hopefully, you guys have to tell me. I think that's how it's gonna have to go. I think it helped.
Sure. But you said you basically wrote your whole life, right?
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
what did you write? Did you write short stories or what did you do?
Yeah, short stories, movies, TV show. I wrote a pilot for a TV show that I'm still holding on to because I would love to do it. It'd be so much fun. But
Yeah.
I would write poems. I was very sappy when I was a teenager, so like I would write anything you can think of. I would write. So short stories and any kind of genre. I loved writing comedy. The Artificial, the book we're going to be talking about today, is kind of like a sci-fi comedy, which is easy for me to write, but the one thing I enjoy writing the most is probably horror or thriller.
Okay.
So I would write a lot of like scary short stories. That was kind of like, if you went through my notepad, my 17-year-old notepad, you would have questions and be concerned. We'll just say that.
Yeah.
Some of the
Okay.
short stories in there.
Yeah. Okay. So right. So where does the creativity come from? Where do you get inspiration from?
Well, I would definitely say I've never been able to turn my brain off. It's one of those kind of things of like I
Hmm.
constantly find creative or like inspiration in anything, and it happens in little sparks. You get like little, you'll be reading something or watching TV or playing a video game or anything, just
Hmm.
even mundane day to day stuff, and it'll
Hmm.
spark an idea for something. And that's always been how I've been. And then that said, I would say that I do think it in part came genetically, if that's a thing. I would like to think it's a thing, but my dad, extremely creative person. He worked for Marvel way back in the day. He worked as an inker for Marvel back in the, I think, 70s and 80s.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
yeah. And I was born in '89, so he quit the job. Spoiler alert: he quit over some creative differences on something, and so he quit. But that was like right before I was born. But yeah, so he was so talented. He was the top caliber that you would see inking for Marvel now. He was just that tier. And like as a
Okay.
child, I had my bedroom wall was like this whole wall would have been a mural of Spider-Man on one side and all the villains. He did that. Not all the villains, but like Lizard
Hmm.
and uh and Doc Ock and Venom was my favorite. And so like he did that all like a giant comic book panel on my wall. So I would definitely say I've always had something in me that's creative, whether it came from
Yeah.
him or otherwise. But yeah, definitely.
Wow. Welcome, Agent Zero. Welcome, sir. So, is it through your dad that you got into comic books then?
Yeah. So he had a walk-in closet, probably bigger than my office right now, that was filled to the gills with comic books. You got your old cardboard boxes, the little tops, flip them up, hundreds of comics, and he just had maybe 20 or 30 boxes, just filled a whole room, a whole walk-in closet,
Right.
and he was collecting them ever since he was a kid. His dad got into it. His dad was a college professor for writing, actually, interesting enough, for English. Um, so he always would collect them for many years, and we even went through one day with one of those. This was back before like internet was a thing. I don't know if people knew that, but internet hasn't always been around. And it was back when we had like one of those encyclopedias with all of different
Oh yeah.
values of
Right.
each
Yeah.
comic book. So we had a big book telling us what all the other books were valued at, and we were up to like $100,000 and we didn't even finish having, like, he had some really good stuff. But yeah, he was probably the main reason I got into comic books early on, at least. Yeah.
Right. So you're now 33. You told me. So this is your first comic book that you
Hmm.
basically made. Did you before in your life before because your dad collected comic books, he worked in comic books. Were you always planning to make a comic book?
No, not by any means necessary. So, real quick side note: my dad ended up leaving when I was 8. So when I was
Mm,
really young, he bailed,
mm,
left my mom and me and my 2 sisters kind of to fend for ourselves, and he just kind of quit. So that was a thing, obviously, and I had so many creative connections with him when it comes to like pop culture. We would watch, we watched Aliens together. I think my first movie I ever went to, I was 4 years old, and we went and saw Batman Returns,
right.
which I should not have been watching at 4 years old, if anyone remembers it. So like, there's a lot of connection to that world that I had through my father. And then when he left, whether it was, you know, s- uh, I don't really know why. I don't think I did it on purpose, but I kind of dropped everything to do with
Mm,
that, you know?
right.
So
Yeah.
I didn't really read comic books anymore. I used to draw nonstop. I would draw caricatures and things like that,
Mm,
of different people. Like I drew Wesley Snipes in Demolition Man. He was my favorite caricature I ever drew. And I drew that at like 7 years old. Once again, should not have been watching that movie. But, you know, years and years and years went by. I just dropped everything. And then one of my buddies, I don't know if you're familiar with him. His name's John Shell. He has his own kind of, similarly, I'm Bentbox Comics. That's kind of my moniker I'm using. He's using one called Unity Comics. He just did one called The Last Wand. Had a successful Kickstarter. Really good book. I have it on my wall over there on posters all around my house trying to support him. But he showed me how he did it, and it kind of inspired me to get back into it.
mm,
So I picked back up the pen and paper, started writing again, and now we have a comic book.
right. Yes. Yeah. That's excellent. So did you use ideas that you had, or is this something completely new?
I used some ideas I had. Like I said, I've been doing this for a long time when it comes to just writing down ideas, even if I didn't have a creative outlet for them. I dabbled in indie game development for a while after I got out of college. I went to college for game development, actually, so I'm
Okay.
more familiar with that. That was the route I was going originally,
Right.
which I love. It's very enjoyable. I enjoy storytelling in every single aspect I can, whether it be written or interactive
Mm,
storytelling. That's probably preferable, getting the player to discover the story on their own and maybe even be involved in it and stuff like that. That's what I enjoy. So I had so many indie game ideas that I had written down that I'm like, oh, I can transpose a lot of these into comics. Once I started kind of thinking in that route, I'm like, all right,
yeah.
I
Yeah.
think I'm not going to be in the game development route anymore. There is
Mm,
so much involved with that. If you're not very familiar with it, it's
right.
difficult for an indie developer to get up and running. So I kind of just took some of those ideas, kind of transplanted them over, and figured they would work. And I think this one definitely does. And I have some other ones on, on the list.
Oh wow. Okay. I saw Ryu coming in. Welcome, Ryu. Hey man, how are you doing, man? Ice Queen, welcome, Ice Queen. Nice to see you. And Dr. Rhino. It's not a show without Dr. Rhino. Thanks for dropping in, man. Guys, if you have a question for Chris, just drop it in the chat.
Yeah.
Um, Also, pinned in the chat is the link to the campaign if you want to check it out already. Um, okay, Chris, you said that you worked uh, in games,
Yeah.
or right? So you actually provided stories for games.
Yeah, I was a producer for a small studio named Skylocked, and we did. I was kind of producer and creative director was kind of my
Right.
role, and so
Oh,
that was, um, developing some of the stories, working with writers, working with it was kind of working with all the different aspects, writers,
Right.
programmers, artists, sound engineers, kind of having your hand in everything, making sure that the story's going the right way, the development's going the right way, that kind of thing, which is so much fun. I really enjoyed it. I really did.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. So are there games that we can find and
No,
play? Maybe? No.
there were a couple that we had out, but ever since the studio kind of went under, I guess you could say, uh, a handful of those. I think the majority of those games were no longer. They were all mobile games. That's where they started. That's where we started. We're on mobile games instead of going straight to console. And mobile tends to have updated terms and policies so often that if you
Mm,
don't comply with those regularly, they just drop your game from the store. And since the studio was no longer in operation, there was no way to comply with all of the new terms and services. So majority
wow.
of the games just kind of dropped off. But I mean, they were up for a couple of years. And they were fun, just fun little games that we did.
Yeah, it's too bad that these things just disappear, right?
Yeah, that
So
is kind of a bummer. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. All right, great. So now you had the story for your comic book.
Hmm.
Have you laid it out? So have you got the entire story from A to Z, or is it something you are discovering as you write it?
A little bit of both. So that
Hmm.
is definitely a way I write. Is I tend to um I tend to write in a way to where I kind of have an A to Z. I know here and then the end. I know where I
Hmm.
want to go at some
Yeah.
point, and then I tend to allow whatever sparks I get or whatever. Like I'm like, okay, well, we need this to happen before this happens, before this happens. And then before I get to step B, sometimes I get a thought of like, well, what if they do this instead here and do that there? You know what I mean? And then I just write that. And so far it seems like it's working and it's enjoyable and it allows the story to be a little more fluid and not so boxed in because I do have a
Hmm.
lot of things I want to get done and I want
Right.
the characters to be able to do. But like I so this is artificial issue 1. I have fully written artificial issue 2 and 3. Issue 2, just for an example, I wasn't planning on it, but spoiler alert: some of the main characters get some form of superpowers. And when they get those superpowers within training, I was planning on just having them doing training modules like in this environment, and then instead I have them going on a hunting trip to hunt these mythological creatures. So it
Right.
it was kind of just something that I was like, okay, that would be interesting. So I just start writing it, and then it's kind of cool, and it leads it in a more not so, like I said, not so boxed in storyline. So, but I do have an A to B or A to Z. I know how it's going to end, but how we're going to get there, we'll see.
Right. Well, since we were talking about the
Yeah.
comic and the story, you might as well bring it up. Usually, I show people the trailer, but you don't really have a trailer. It's more you talking about it, right?
Yep. Just me
Talking about the
talking about it.
project.
Yeah.
So we might as well do that live.
Yeah.
Um, so you're now at you had a $500
Mm-hmm.
goal, which is the minimum I think you can have.
Mm-hmm.
4 days left.
Yep.
Oh,
Yep. It's almost over.
all right. All right, man. But you made your goal. That's great. 42 backers. All right. It's a 32-page sci-fi action comedy. Is it difficult to write comedy?
Yeah, it can be. It's subjective. Comedy's subjective. Who knows if you think what
Yeah.
I think is funny is funny? But
Yes.
I do know, there are, I took a little bit of inspiration from, I don't know if you're familiar with like Army of Darkness, some Sam Raimi films, kind of like
Yeah. Yeah.
dark humor.
Hmm.
So I enjoy dark humor a lot. So that's the majority of the comedy is going to be more of your Army of Darkness, dark humor style. And I think it reads pretty well so far, but
Hmm.
that is kind of what you just said is the worry when you're writing comedy,
Yeah.
is because you could be here chuckling away as you're writing it, and then who knows
I know.
if it gets into someone's hands and they go, well, "This is stupid." You never know. You really don't, because it's subjective. So, but my artist really likes it. All the people I've showed to said they enjoy it. So yeah, so far so good.
Yeah. it can also happen that you accidentally write comedy, right? You write something
Exactly.
and people seem to find it hilarious. And I was like,
Yeah.
but I wrote it to be serious.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, man. Okay, I thought the premise was pretty interesting. So why not start with that? So what is this comic about?
So it kind of the inspiration for this kind of came up when we started seeing AI art become more prevalent, and I'm sure you're well aware of it. And I'm
Yeah.
sure, I mean, there's no way to avoid it now. I remember
Hmm.
before when it was just kind of like something funny and goofy you could mess with, and now it's really cool, like objectively cool. Just what it can do, scary but cool.
Hmm.
So that's kind of what sparked a little idea of kind of like a post-apocalyptic AI world that has been taken over. And the premise is once humanity kind of lost their creativity, there's no reason to create anymore. Robots create. They draw, they paint, they make music, they make our TV shows, our movies, they entertain us. We just sit back and almost Wall-E style, like the Disney movie, and we just sit
Yeah.
there and eat our potato chips. So similar to that train of thought is, well, what would save us? And so I had the idea of three traditional artists, and if you want to scroll up, we can look at them. We'll do a quick run through of them. But three traditional artists get called back from the past to fight against the robots. Basically, people with some creativity still intact.
Yeah. Vincent van Gogh.
Yep, I love how
Yeah.
you say it.
Well,
That was good.
that's his name. Yeah.
That is his name, but you know us Americans, we butcher everything.
Yes. Yes.
Vincent Van Gogh.
Oh, great, man. Great.
Yeah.
And
Well, you got
very.
Vincent
Yeah.
Van Gogh's main character.
Mhm.
He's the protagonist. The ancillary protagonists are Marie Cassatt and Leonardo da Vinci. These are little snippets of kind of like their profile, you know, little descriptions of them.
Yeah, I love these
Marie,
renditions, man. Very cool.
this is, and we can go more into my artist, but I love everything he does. It's so well done. But Marie Cassatt is kind of a contemporary of Vincent van Gogh. She's an American. She moved to France for a majority of her adult life, being a painter. The way she paints is slightly different than Van Gogh. Van Gogh dealt with a lot more whimsy. She did a little more realism. And then obviously you got Leonardo da Vinci, who most people know him, but he's if you don't really deep dive into him, which I had to do because I really wanted him in this comic, I thought it would be entertaining.
Mhm.
It's crazy the amount of stuff he did. Like right there, he's a engineer, scientist, theorist, sculptor, architect, droughtsman, whatever that is.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like just he
Yes.
did everything, and so he's kind of and within this motley crew, he's kind of your crazy uncle. That's the role he's going to play.
Right. Yes. Yes. So are you a fan of arts? Or
Yeah,
is this something right?
yeah, for sure.
Right.
100%. I've always been a fan of. I loved art history and you know, the old school way of doing things is just so appealing to me. I've never been an extremely talented artist. That's another issue we have when it comes to aphantasia. Like I can't. When it always blew my mind when people would be able to draw what they were seeing in their, you know, like they had an idea and then they drew it, and I'm like, how are you connecting those dots? Because
Right.
that's not something I can do. I can't go,
Okay.
okay, arm, hand. Well, no one can draw hands. So we'll just skip over that. Leg. You know what I mean? Like as you're going through it, I'm like, how are you doing this? It blew my mind. So yeah, I've always been very interested in art and art history, and some of the things I've learned about it have been really interesting in the past, especially doing this comic book. I've learned some really cool stuff, doing deep dives on all these characters, just making sure it's historically accurate and kind of true to them. Marie, I messed with Marie a little bit, just a little bit. She's a little more different than she was in real life, but I think it's going to suit the story better.
Yes.
But
Yes.
yeah,
You have to make characters that you
yeah.
can use for your story, right? Of course. Excellent, man. Yes. It looks nice. Very expressive. Really cool. That's just what you want, especially in a comic book about artificial intelligence. You want to show what it's like to make a comic made by actual human beings, so it has to be expressive.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, so these three artists from the past, they are brought over to the present.
Yeah. Yeah. That's issue 1 is somewhat of an introduction. It's kind of, I mean, most issue 1s are, but it's going to introduce you to each character, but not super in depth. Primarily the main protagonist, which is Vincent Van Gogh. So that's going to be the one it focuses on. But then issues 2, 3, and as I've written them, you kind of develop the characters a little bit more and more. But yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. Gregory, welcome, Gregory. Hail, hail, sir. Hey, Greg, I think you're going to like this this particular book here. What are we drinking? I'm drinking my Pepsi. So yeah.
Dr. Pepper.
Chris, we have a question for you
Yeah.
from Agent Zero. Of the three artists, who is your favorite protagonist in this book?
All right. So my boy is Vincent Van Gogh, obviously main protagonist. He's enjoyable to write. I've really enjoyed writing him when it comes to a lot of the first issue. You'll see him in his isolation. And this is real world. I kind of wrote in is some of the things that really happened to him and how he was going about life towards the latter end of his life. So it's been really fun connecting with that character and kind of giving them life that you haven't really seen otherwise, other than like some portrayals of them like Doctor Who and things like that. Now, secondary, I have to give props to Da Vinci. He's been the majority of the comedic time. The majority of the comedy is from Da Vinci so far in issues 2 and 3. Just like I said, he's kind of your crazy uncle. That's another cool thing I'm going through, everyone. He only speaks Italian. So
Okay.
even though he knows he's he speaks other languages as well, but Vincent Van Gogh does not speak Italian.
Okay.
Nor does Da Vinci speak any languages that Vincent would speak. French, Dutch, like there's a handful of them. English, he speaks English. Marie Cassatt, being American, speaks English and French and a couple others, but Da Vinci does not speak any of their languages. So a lot of the interactions in the early issues is Da Vinci yelling in Italian and them having no idea what he's saying. And it's been fun to write those and it's just been super enjoyable. So he's the source of a lot of the comedy. So as much as Van Gogh is my main man, the most enjoyable to write has been Da Vinci for sure.
Right. So some jokes you might not get unless you translate it
100%.
for yourself. Right.
Yeah.
Great, man. Yeah. You guys drink the hard stuff. I stick to water. Okay. Yeah, man. So do you speak Italian or how did you manage to write?
There it goes. Well, the internet is a beautiful place.
Mm-hmm.
And as much as I hate to admit it, actually, no, I didn't use Google Translate mainly because it's even my wife kind of pointed that out. She's like, it's not super accurate. She's like, what you're saying here, what he's saying here is translating to this, which really doesn't sound right. I was like, oh no, because I started with Google. I was just trying to figure out, but there's a site called Deepl, Deepl.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be one of the more accurate like translators. So I'm trying to do that along with cross analyzing all of my words and making sure it's accurate. I personally do not know any Italians. I wish I did. If any of your viewers are Italian, feel free to reach out and I'll have you. We can look through it together because just to make sure it's accurate. But from where we're currently at, I think it's pretty accurate. It's pretty good.
All right, great. Yeah. Okay, so we have 3 covers. I found out this one is by Gabriel
Fonseca.
I'm very sorry, Gabriel. Fonseca. All right.
Yep,
and he's also the main artist.
Yes, that's the main artist, the interior artist and cover artist for this. That is a wraparound cover, and that's the standard edition. So the standard edition will have a wraparound. We have not unveiled the wraparound yet or the other side. So, but that is the front.
Right. And then we have another one by the same artist.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Yeah.
So this is called the propaganda edition. You'll kind of see more why it's different. There's an example down further down in the campaign, so we can always get there eventually. But yeah, this was a marketing. This was a marketing page we did early on to promote the book. As you can, this is more of a tongue-in-cheek, comedic cover. As you can tell, we will not be using any AI art except for on this
Yes.
cover.
Okay. This is
That that is
actual
AI art.
AI art. Okay.
Yeah, and
Cool.
that is Da Vinci saying, "Who is this?" when it is clearly
The guy
a
standing next to him. Yeah.
yeah, it's a terrible representation of Vincent van Gogh done by a
Yeah.
computer. So so that is the only use you will see of AI art in our comic book.
Right. Great. And then we have a guest artist.
Mm-hmm. This guy is he's from Portugal. I would he has like over almost 500,000 followers. He's kind of world renowned when it comes to his portrayal of Vincent van Gogh style art. So it was one of those situations where I really wanted to find someone who could capture Vincent van Gogh's style and put some different twists on it and do something that kind of that I had in mind that did a callback to the interior of the book.
Mm.
Um, this cover is called The Starry Nightmare. Obviously, if you are familiar with Vincent van Gogh, you know Starry Night, one of his most
Mhm.
famous paintings. So this is a play on that. This is a Vincent van Gogh rendition of the post-apocalyptic city that you see in the comic book. This is what he
Right.
would have seen and how he would have interpreted it.
Wow. Really cool. Really cool that you found this guy also, man. So,
Yeah, and I
great.
love he did a lot of creative liberty. I gave him as much creative liberty as I could because
Yeah.
I've seen his other work and I was like, okay, you know how to draw like Vincent Van Gogh. I was
Sure.
like, here's the
Mm.
page. What would Vincent Van Gogh do with this? Like, what do you think he would do with this?
Right.
And like the light, the water that's spilling out and kind of going over the city like a waterfall. Technically, I mean, you won't see it until you get the book, but that's like the tower that's in the middle of the city, the main city of the book, has cables and lights and just it's super bright. And I was like, you know, that does make sense. Like Vincent Van Gogh wouldn't have any point of reference for that. It would almost just look like a waterfall spilling over the city because it's just lights that encase the city. I was like, I really like it. So like there's little things that he did to, interpret it his way. And
Mhm.
I had no notes. I said, I like it. I was like, this makes sense. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's the cover for that.
Yeah. Great. Okay, so the concept, you basically have the concept. You have these three renowned artists, and
Mm-hmm.
you bring them back to this era where we have this artificial crap being produced.
Yeah.
So you have this conflict between these two uh, worlds, but
Mm-hmm.
where in there is the story? What's how did you find the story to tell?
Well, so the inspiration I had for it was kind of a seedling of okay, AI takes over the world. What happens after AI takes over the world? Well, it would be really interesting to see. I've always been a fan of like alternate dimensions, time travel, but stuff like Army of
Mm,
Darkness where goes to a
right.
different place. So I that is kind of what drew me into the idea of like okay, well let's bring some classical artists that have no familiarity with technical advancements, at least to this extent, other than potentially Leonardo da Vinci because of how advanced he was. Um, so that was kind of the spark for it. But then as I started writing it, the story, I don't want to give too much away on how the story progresses,
Sure. Sure.
but because there's a couple really interesting things that happen in issue 2 and 3 that are uh, main story drivers. So I'm
Mhm.
not going to give those away. But a lot of it has been through character development, has actually led me to story development. If that makes any sense. It's kind of one of those things where you put someone where they don't belong
Mhm.
and then you try and discover how they would react or interact or
Right.
live
Yeah.
or survive, and then that progresses the story.
Right. Yes.
So I'm trying to have it be as literally as
character driven.
as fluent as possible, just like just as much as possible, just whatever happens kind of deal, almost like a choose your own adventure but in my head. And we're
Right.
seeing how it's going,
Yes.
but it's been really fun. I do have the point A, B, C, D, E, F, G, but a lot of the story is very character driven. Yes.
All right. Yeah, I love this art, man. Really cool. It's really
The artist is fantastic. He's embarrassed, and I understand it. I'm sorry, Gabriel. He's shy.
embarrassed.
Well,
Why?
he's shy. This is his first comic book, and he. So I'll say this real fast. He didn't have a ton of self-esteem or like understanding of his abilities when I first
Mm,
reached out to him. He was
okay.
very new. He was very excited to work on it. He, had a lot of passion and interest. But there were so many times where early on he was like, "Is this okay? Or is this okay?" Or
Right. Yeah.
very timid and like not
Mhm.
sure of himself. And then we got to a point where I kept puffing him up as much. I was like, "Dude, you're killing it. These, I love it." I was like, "I love the art style. It's very unique." I was like, "You're literally nailing, you know, um, Cafe Terrace at Night right there. That's just one of his paintings, but you're doing it in your style, a version of his painting." And I was like, and then all the different mannerisms you're putting and all the facial expressions. I was like, "Man, you can draw." I was like,
Yes.
"Stop being timid." I was like, "You got it, man." And to the point where he was giving me pages and being like, "Hey, man, I killed this one." Like he was,
right.
and it was really
Good.
fun. It was
Excellent.
so much fun watching him get excited and like more confident. And now he's like, "We did it. We made a comic book." It's his first one. It's my first one, but 100% his art is amazing. I'm so glad I
Yeah.
found him. I told him
Yeah.
he's not allowed to work for anyone else. Period.
Yeah. Yeah. He must be so proud, man. This is phenomenal work. Yes.
So this is a little preview of it. Just a
Look
couple
at
pages
this.
are kind of like hop, skip, and jumps through the story.
Yes, of course. Yeah. Yeah. Really cool. So I do think that Gabriel was his name, right?
Yeah.
That he does have he is familiar with comic books. I don't think you can draw like this without studying actual comics.
Yeah, no, he's insanely knowledgeable, much more than
Mhm.
I am. To the point where I have
Right.
comic books. You probably can't really see them, but I have a couple on my wall over there. I have a wall of comic books, and I remember I was like, "What do you think of my wall?" And he literally goes, "Oh, cool, you got Batman number 11," and he goes through the
Yeah.
artists and the story. He goes, "I was like, how'd you?" I was like, "I can barely see it from here." I was like, "How?" He's so knowledgeable about this stuff, and to the point where I gave him similarly with that special artist for the special edition cover, I gave Gabriel as much creative freedom as possible. I
Yes.
said, "Here are my words on paper. If you think
Mhm.
it could be better, make it better." I was like, "Whatever." I'm not the kind of guy. I'm not the guy who goes, "Bro, I wrote it like this. Why didn't you draw it like this?" No, 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 no. And there's so many moments where he took things and made it better just based on how he knows how to draw and how stories
Right.
should go.
Right. He did
There's
the
gonna
colors also, right?
Yeah, he did everything.
Right.
Colors, lettering, inking.
Yeah. Yeah. What I like here is that this this actually looks like paint. These colors
I'm
here.
not sure how he did it.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean, I know how
phenomenal.
he did it, but he did it so well. I'm very impressed.
Yes, it's all digital, of course.
Yeah, all digital.
Uh, Jonas, welcome, Jonas. He says it looks great,
I agree.
and Amanda
Thank you.
says she likes the palette choices.
Thank you. Once
Okay,
again,
so this,
majority of that was him. A lot of the
yeah,
artistic choices were him. I gave him just whatever Rainey wanted. I don't know if you scroll up real fast. There's
up.
right there, down again, the page you were just at. I am a big fan of Easter eggs. So
Mhm.
I don't know if you recognize the gentleman on the bottom left, but he was modeled after myself. And that
Indeed.
so we're going to have a lot of that kind of stuff in there. I'm looking forward to it. But that's actually a real life person. It's someone who Vincent's brother paid to have watch over Vincent and kind of take care of him, and Vincent hated him. So I was like,
Oh,
"Oh, let's make him me. I think that would be fun."
right. Yes. Yes.
So there's gonna be a lot of that in there.
That's good. That's awesome. There are a lot. There are lots of good things that he's presenting. Yeah, you have some good pages on here to showcase. That's great, guys. The link to this campaign is pinned in the chat. It's also in the description of the video. Please check it out.
Please, please.
Beautiful, man. So here's a question that I like to ask. You
Okay.
are the writer. So how did you write this particular page? Did you give the artist? Did you set it up in panels
Yeah.
or?
So this I'm glad you asked this about this specific page. This is one of my favorite pages in the first issue. This page is so I removed all the text, that way there's no spoilers for the story. But all of the
Yeah.
boxes that you're seeing there are actually Vincent writing a letter to his brother Theo. So Vincent was always very close with his brother, and he wrote him letters constantly. They didn't live nearby very often. This is a lot of stuff I had to learn, and I knew little bits of it, but I did a lot of history deep dives and making sure I knew things, to the point where I read a lot of Vincent's letters to his brother Theo, like, because they're actually published. And so you can go and read some of his letters, and then go back and read my comic and see the similarities that I put in with his writing, because this is a letter that I wrote as Vincent
Mhm.
Van Gogh to his brother Theo, but I wanted
Yeah.
it to feel like Vincent Van Gogh writing to his brother Theo. So I had to go read all of his letters, which was really enjoyable. It really was. So that's what you're seeing here. Is I kind of did a panel description of Vincent Van Gogh at his desk, a pipe in hand, writing, and then I put like the words, and then I would put like side shot of a chair with a picture of Vincent Van Gogh and Theo. That and then I left it up to Gabriel how he wanted to format it and how he wanted to like space them all out. And the cool
Mhm.
thing was, with this one specifically, my plan was this to be all in the same night. There's a panel right before this where he comes home and he starts writing the letter. I was planning on him writing the letter all in one night. Uh, and then Gabriel, that's another beautiful thing with working with someone who doesn't speak your native language very well. There's a lot of miscommunication, but sometimes
Okay.
in beautiful ways, because
Yes.
this was one where he didn't understand what I meant by that. So he did a whole day night cycle within
Yes.
one page, showing Vincent Van Gogh writing, like, basically tormenting over a letter over a whole day, trying to get the words across. And when I saw this page, when he sent it to me, I was like, this isn't what I wrote, or this isn't what I said. And I was like, but it's so much better. I was like, this is amazingly better. And so
Yeah.
that it's just cool that you asked about this specific panel, because there's little things that you'll see once you get it, obviously, of what he's saying to his brother. Even down to the very bottom of it, he signs off a lot of his letters with "sincerely" with a handshake, which is an interesting way to sign off a letter. My wife read it, because I had her proofread it just to make sure I didn't sound stupid in a lot of these pages, and she said, "Why are you saying sincerely with a handshake? That doesn't make any sense." I was like, "I don't know. Ask Vincent Van Gogh." I was like, "That's
Yeah.
what he said." I was like that,
Yeah.
and I showed her letters, and she goes, "Oh, okay." So like I'm trying to be as accurate as possible with it,
Yes.
but it's been really enjoyable.
Guys, this is why indie comics are so awesome. You have people who meet each other, artists, writers, they make something together, and magic happens, man. This is
Yeah,
phenomenal. Yeah. Jonas says, crazy that he only lived to 37.
yeah.
Yeah. Dark Side, welcome, Dark Side. Welcome, sir. Guys, Dark Side is Comics has his own YouTube channel with daily comic book reviews. Check it out. Subscribe. Um, Great. A lot of awesome pages.
hmm
It's very cinematic also. Really nice.
That was one way I tried to write the panels. Is a lot of the descriptions I used were camera view from, like, I almost
Oh,
wrote it like I was writing a movie, or
oh
or like a
really?
TV show. So
Okay.
but I think it actually helped my artist kind of interpret it in a way to make it cinematic, which I think it turned out pretty well.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Very nice. The sound effects also, they blend into the art, which is nice.
Yeah.
It has this European look to it, the style, you know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's in France.
Yeah.
That's where this is set, his early days or latter days technically. And then I give you a nice little juxtaposition of what's coming.
Look at this. Look at this panel.
That was so cool when he showed me that.
Here.
And that's another thing where he showed me, he was like, I don't know what you think about this. And I was like, it's one of the coolest things I've ever seen. What do you mean?
Yes.
What do I think about it?
Holy
I was like,
shit.
we're obviously doing it.
This is fantastic. Look at this panel. Look at this. Look at the metal here, the way it's colored.
And that's Vincent van Gogh's actual gun. So we made sure that's historically accurate as well. He had another spoiler alert. In real life, Vincent van Gogh shot himself. So that is the gun he used to shoot himself with. So I wanted to make sure that was represented correctly.
Right. Wow. This is really, really impressive. Here is a quick look at the propaganda version. So what's the story behind the propaganda version?
So the propaganda version is basically, I've seen a lot of indie creators make black and white versions. Even my friend I mentioned earlier, John Shell with Unity Comics, his the last one had a black and white version. I really like the idea of a black and white version. There's just something, I don't know what it is. There's something satisfying about a black and white version when done correctly. And I was looking at Gabriel's artwork and I was like, a lot of this is going to show up great black and white. I was like, I can't wait. Well, let's just do a black and white version. And then, no offense to other people out there who just do black and white versions, I said, I don't want to just take your panels and just desaturate. I was like, I don't want to do that. I was like, that'd be easy. I was like, let's mess with it a bit. I was like, have you ever watched Sin City? Or like some of those old Frank Miller movies where it was based on comics where it's basically black and white and then a bright pop of red.
And he was like, yeah, sure, of course, I've seen that. And
yeah. Oh, he was actually.
Yes.
So he was one of those people who, that's the kind of thing where it was these bright pops of red or other colors that would just stand out and help you know what to focus on in a specific scene. So I said, well, let's do our entire comic book that way. I was like, let's do a black and white version. And let's pick and choose little bits that we can just color in and just see how it looks. And I love this version so much. I just think it took a lot of time, energy, and effort. And we combed over each and every page to make sure we knew we put what we wanted in color.
All right. At first, I thought that maybe everything painted was in color. That's not really true, right? Because here you have paint that's black and white.
Yeah, it's just little things that we wanted to, we thought would be interesting to have a pop to it.
Yeah.
And that it would present a very unique visual experience with the color on black and white.
Yeah, even the
speech bubbles. Yep.
Speech bubble here.
Yeah.
Ryu says, love black and white indeed when done right.
Hopefully we did it right.
Darkside shared the campaign on Twitter. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Nice. Guys, the link is in the description. It's also pinned in the chat. Please check it out. You can browse through this campaign. A lot of cool stuff here. Let's go through your rewards quickly. They call it rewards here.
Yeah.
I'm from Indiegogo. They call it perks. So
yeah, all good.
It's all good. All right, you can get the standard edition for digital for only $2.
Yep. So that's your PDF, $2.
Guys, a PDF for only $2, guys. If you want to support Chris, you want to support this campaign, but you don't want to deal with shipping costs, for instance, or I don't know, just for $2 you have the digital comic. And the propaganda edition is digital. Why is it called the propaganda edition?
Say it again. Oh, why is it called the propaganda edition?
Yes.
Well, that's another. We didn't really want to just call it black and white version. So we were trying to think of a more unique way of saying it. Obviously, this has no meaning with black and white propaganda. However, we started getting into the idea, and this is going to be in future comics, with the AI. There's a lot of things that have been taken out of it, but some things are still
Right.
being remained, and so almost as if it's being used as propaganda. So that's kind of the sense for it. Now, it doesn't have any legitimate meaning when it comes to the writing of the first issue,
Right.
but when it comes to the world that it's representing, it'll make a little more sense probably in future issues.
Right. Okay, great. Then you have the collector's bundle, which is, what's this? The standard propaganda plus the story. Oh, right. The variant cover.
Yeah.
Also, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Only $5, guys. Then you get the physical book for $12. You ship worldwide, right?
Yes, sir. Sure do.
Fantastic. And you get the digital for free. Come on, guys. These are good rates. Good prices here. $15 you get the propaganda edition physical, right? Then you have for $20 Starry Nightmare edition.
Yep.
So the variant is a bit more expensive, but still, it's a good price for 32 pages, right?
Yes, sir.
Collector's bundle. You get basically everything.
Yep.
Oh, this gone. Okay.
Yeah. We had
Great.
an early bird.
Great, man. Let's refresh, right? You're at 42 backers. Let's refresh. 42 backers.
We'll get a couple
Guys,
more, I'm sure.
Guys, please share this campaign. Share it on your social media. Tell everyone about artificial number 1, especially to people who don't like artificial art.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah. So do they need to fight against villains with like 27 fingers?
Yes. More than likely, there's going to be a lot of that inside humor that, unless you're really familiar with AI art, you're not going to know why this robot has 17 fingers. But if you're very familiar with it, it'll make sense. But yeah, there will be stuff like that in issue 2 and 3 and so on. Yeah.
That's cheap, says Darkside. Yeah, man. Welcome, Aardvark. Hello, Aardvark. Just in the last few minutes, Aardvark, check out this campaign. It looks really, really cool. And Darkside has a question. How many comics will there be?
Right now, I have a roadmap for 8.
Whoa.
8 in the series. That is a soft roadmap. That is a squishy roadmap because it's very possible there's 10, 12, just based on, because there's a couple different almost like Y intersections in the story where I could be very straightforward with what needs to be done to progress the story, or if something comes up in the meantime that would be interesting, I'm going to explore it. So could be a little more.
Yes, I know this problem. I always set things up with like, this is going to be 4 issues, and then when I'm done, it's like double.
Yeah, there's no way. I'm definitely not selling myself short, because as I'm writing 2 and 3, I'm like, I'm nowhere in the story. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, there's so much world building and character building I'm trying to do. So yeah, it would be a decently long miniseries.
What do you think is the most challenging aspect of making your own comic book?
Marketing is not the easiest. I mean, I don't know. It's one of those things where I don't really know much more you can do than what I've already done, kind of deal.
Yeah, breaking out of that network, that's difficult,
that
right?
network, trying to reach out to people who would enjoy it. The way some of the social media sites have kind of changed how natural reach happens now. It's kind of shuttered a bit, and it's not easy. So this right here is my marketing as best I can, trying to have you help out. But other than that, everything else is very easy. Not easy. It's enjoyable. which makes
Yeah.
it easy. You know what I mean? If you like what you're doing, if you like
Exactly.
your work, then it's not work. So this is fun.
Exactly. All right, guys.
Just convincing everyone to go get it. That's the hard part.
Yes, exactly. Go get it, guys. It's very cheap. It's extremely cheap for a indie crowdfunded comic. Please tell everyone, share it. Yeah. So stop sharing here. Chris, thank you very much, man, for being my guest today and showing
No
us your
problem.
wonderful comic book.
No problem. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me. It was fun.
Yeah, you're very welcome, sir. And special thanks to the chat, to everyone who showed up and who watched us and who liked us. Please like us. If you didn't like it, give it a dislike. I'm very sorry about that. Yeah, and I will be back next week. Same time, same channel, and my guest will be Mark Polton. So I hope to see you guys there. Right. Wait. Yes, I got it. Okay, guys. See you next time. Bye-bye.